All right, here we are again, the organic mechanic with the undisputed hydro weight champion, Harley Smith. We're going to have another nice conversation this morning and can't wait to get started. I know we had some pre chit chat and you got some good things to share with us today. So you just take this by the horns and go with it.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say that if I am disputed, I would really like to meet the people that can teach me because I'm always open to learn. I mean, continuously. That makes my day. If I learn one new thing in a day that I can apply in any way, even indirectly, that's a good day for me. Uh, but I'll take
Well,
it. Thank you for the compliment. Okay, well, I've had a few questions this week about mother plants and plant nutrition for mother plants. And it's an area that I am pretty familiar with because I developed a commercial fertilizer, a biohydroponic fertilizer years ago called Mother Plant. And it was
I
specifically
hate to interrupt you. I hate to interrupt you with that, but I just have to tell people I don't know. I don't know if Harley's a cuddler, but there's only one product I've seen Harley cuddle, and and it was that
what?
fertilizer product. I think I seen you hold that like a baby. That product
Really?
you're talking about. Yeah. So I
Well,
just had to
maybe I
share
did.
that. I just had to share that.
I don't remember everything. Some of my memories are a little cloudy. Um, that's okay. Anyway,
Okay,
so
take it over. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just had to share that.
anytime. And I want always, this is a conversation. I'm not a lecture today. I don't want to turn it into a lecture. It's too easy to do. There's something I'm really passionate about is, growing hybrids plants as we both of us are. And that's even more important for mother plants than it is for production plants in some ways. But anyway, I developed that first product called Mother Plant. And when I did it, the first thing I did is I want to say, okay, well, anytime you start a new project like that for research, Brendan, you want to take a look at the literature. Let's see what's out there about stock plants and about mother plants in general. I mean, it's not like we just invented taking cuttings in the last 10 years. So there are professional propagators around the world. That's all they do is grow mother plants, take cuttings, and ship them out. So I looked at some scientific research on there, and the first thing I learned was with the base nutrients to do a 1-to-1 potassium to nitrogen ratio, potassium to nitrate. Now, in production, we have 1.2 to 1 nitrogen to potassium, 1.5 to 1. We want to, there's usually there's more potassium than nitrogen, but not 1-to-1. And the point they made was that the researchers was that excess potassium tends to translocate the nitrates to the shoots. So then you get some stretching. And if you want to do healthy moms, you want that nice 2-inch internodal length. You want a lot of stored energy. So as far as the base goes, and I'm simplifying here, I reduce the nitrogen to the low end of sufficiency instead of the high end, like you would for veg. And I reduce the potassium levels to approximately a 1-to-1 ratio. And then I built from there. So that's the first thing. And if you have excess nitrogen, it burns up a lot of the energy of photosynthesis just to assimilate the nitrates. And then you see it in top growth. Oh, look how big my plants are growing. We've talked about this. But it's burning up and lowering the Brix. I want as much stored sugar as I can get in those cuttings, in that new growth. And I want smaller cells with thicker cell walls. I want this to be just a bundle of potential energy. So when I take the cutting and it separates from the mom, that there's more stored energy in the tissue to make the roots. It just all makes sense. It wasn't, I didn't just make this up. I mean, it's out there and professional propagators, that's the way they do it. So, so that was my starting point. And then the next part was I wanted to improve the uptake of nutrients. And just like we've been talking about with all of our high bricks, the more efficiently plants take up water and minerals, the more chemical reactions, the higher the bricks. So I wanted a good uptake of nutrients, especially the calcium. So I concentrated first on the amino acids. I added that to the part A that had the calcium, my hydroponic nutrient. I add the amino acids right to it. So it chelates the calcium so it doesn't lock up and also improves the uptake. So that was my second. And then the third was I want good balanced growth. I want actively growing roots in my mom and my mother plants so that they can harvest more nutrients and take it up. I want a sponge of roots. So that's where I went into the humic acid, the kelp extracts, or the folic acid. Some aminos, of course, was already in there. And that was, I put that mainly in the part B. So at that point, I had a pretty good balance going on, and I was able to grow healthy moms, and they were rooting. So when I took cuttings, they rooted much faster. They were stronger because they had the smaller cell walls. They were more resistant to drought and drying out, and they were just healthier, better results, faster rooting. And the longer it takes to root a clone, the more chance there is for pest and disease and fungus to form. So if they root right away, they start doing photosynthesis right away, they'll recover faster too. So anyway, that was the base in a nutshell. One more step though, and this had to do with mainly with your products, and that is doing a combination of kelp, fulvic acid, and a little bit of yucca as a wetting agent, using that as a foliar spray and also using it at the root zone because it does help the roots. It's in my base. But if I just take the kelp and the fulvic, I do a spray on that. I call it stage 0 of cloning. 2 weeks before I take cuttings, do a low dose, light mist, not too heavy, and you're done. Just back. That's all it takes. But don't use it any more than once a week. That's too. Anything more than once a week is too much
Well, is
because the
that too aggressive?
cytokinins,
Just a little bit too
huh?
aggressive if you do it more than once, a little bit too aggressive?
Yeah, well, you you can burn the plant because one of the side effects of cell division and cellular metabolism is heat. And you overstimulate that, you can actually burn the edges of the leaves. And I've seen that happen. You can also, the cytokinins in the kelp extract, see, this is turning into a lecture. Sorry about that.
No, this is
But the
good though. No, this is
cytokinins
all
in
good.
there, the cytokinins in the kelp extract, when you foliar spray them, it it represses what's called the apical dominance, the top growth, but it stimulates lateral bud development. So it's not, it's almost like if I do too much, it's almost stunted at the top. I don't want to do that completely. I mean, like topping, you could, I guess, that would redistribute. But with the cytokines, you use that, it inhibits the top growth, stimulates the lateral bud development, and that lateral bud is the branches. That's going to be your cuttings. Also, the second part of that, though, I mean, that's better than just cutting the top, is that the cytokines literally pull nutrients into the tissue. It pulls in the sugars, the amino acids, the water and nutrients into those tissues, and also helps keep the tissue juvenile. The cytokinins do. So it's stimulating cell division. You're getting a bushier plant, better for cuttings, but it's pulling in more nutrients in directly into the tissues. If I had a leaf and I put 1 drop of water with high in cytokinins on it, cut it off and put it on the table, that whole leaf would start to turn yellow and brown, except for one little island of green where the cytokinins were, because it's pulling in the nutrients, keeping it juvenile. And if that's on the tissue, you want to keep that tissue juvenile until it can make roots. You don't want it yellowing out and the leaves falling off too early. So that was sort of the icing on the cake. stimulating the uptake of nutrients and then pulling the nutrients into the tissue, uh, storing up the carbohydrates by not overdoing with nitrogen or having excess of potassium. Healthy moms, healthy moms, healthy clones.
Wow. That is,
Basically.
boy, that is good information. Let me ask you this. So back in the day when you were doing this development for the products and creating these formulas, were these biostimulants still accessible to get? Were they hard to find? Were they hard to get a hold of?
Um, well, uh, no, because the kelp extracts we were using, the company I was working for actually was bottling and selling nitrozyme. You've heard of nitrozyme, right? And that's
Hmm.
basically a kelp extract,
Hmm.
generally speaking. Pretty good quality one, but it's liquid. It was a liquid one. Um, and they had another product that was a humic acid product. So I had access to some of these things, like from a vitamin manufacturer out east, some of these ingredients, but we didn't have uh, the amino acids at all. I had to source those, and I was buying a biotech grade amino
Wow.
acids, very expensive. So this wasn't cheap, and it wasn't really that easy. Now, as we went along, though, I learned all the science from using some of these products and experimenting with them, formulating. But then as we went along, I really liked the powders. When I saw those, I went, "Oh, this is great," because when I mix them up, they're fresh.
Exactly.
I don't have to worry about shelf life on them. I don't have to worry about, you have fulvic acid, put that in water, and to leave it for a week or two, you're going to see stuff growing in it. That's good. I mean, that's why it works. It's so biologically active. But if you can mix it up fresh, you don't have to worry about it degrading. And oh man, I spent weeks, months just trying to find natural ways to preservatives to put into the liquid product. And I was going back looking at, well, what did Leonardo da Vinci use? What did those painters use when they had egg egg whites as part of their paint, so it didn't just turn into mold on the canvas? What other ways could that be done? How it was done in the past before they invented synthetic fungicides? And I just started applying some of the things the masters used. But that wasn't easy either, sourcing out some of
Yeah,
these organics. But I
that's
just didn't want to
extensive
put,
research.
yeah, I had to go looking in far afield. But once we found those powders, I went, oh, what a relief. I don't have to worry about that anymore. You mix it up, use it within a week or two, it's done. So that's one thing I recommend when they mixed up the fulvic, 5 parts fulvic acid, 2 parts kelp, I didn't really change that. A little bit of yucca as a wetting agent. If they use it as a foliar, there's some left over. Don't put it on the shelf and wait 2 weeks to spray again. Just take what's left over and add that to the root zone. It's going to stimulate root growth too, cell division of the root cells. So it's always better to mix it up fresh. And that was a relief. So now when I'm working with commercial growers that want a mother plant nutrient, I make their base nutrient, kind of fine tune it a little bit too for their environment and their strains. But then I have them add the biostimulants at the last minute and as a foliar.
Those
So I don't
those are
mix them
great.
together like
Right,
I did
right.
before.
Those are great points you brought up. It's very important when using the soluble powders, such as what we send our customers at Kelp4less,
Hmm.
is yeah, try to only mix what you need. And remember, there's no preservatives or stabilizers in these powders. So they have a much higher energy if you're into that energy thing. They have a much higher bioavailability rate. And they're actually very, very pure. And so, if you get in that habit, only mix what you need. Sometimes it can be inconvenient, but I love how you addressed putting it on the roots if you have leftover. I mean, find a way to root drench it, use it up, and over time, you'll see a difference compared to any liquid bottled product out there. They're all full of preservatives or stabilizers or something that inhibits biological activity. They have to have that in the jug. So thanks for throwing the details about the soluble powders out there. That's totally in our world here at Kelp4less. So that's very, very,
Hmm.
once again, great advice.
Yeah. Yeah. I was losing sleep over, I don't know what the manufacturer is going to do, but they want shelf life. And I just worried that they're going to be putting artificial preservatives in there. And I don't want to spray that on my plants as a
Hmm.
foliar. I mean, come on. Um, but with the powders, again, didn't have to worry about it at all. Um, let's see what else there with the mother plant. Oh, here's something interesting. And you know that you can comment on this even more than me. But when I brought up with that first product that had the biostimulants in it, the people that were giving me the best feedback were the soil growers. And I thought, I did all my research on hydroponics with this. I mean, I was measuring the nutrients in the leaf, higher in nutrients than the control, than the grow. I was measuring bricks off the scale. And so I know this works for hydroponics. But the soil growers say, oh, I like it better for soil. And I realized, oh, okay, why? Because those biostimulants improve the metabolism, stimulate metabolism of microorganisms in the soil. So the microorganisms in the soil make more biostimulants real time. So they were getting even better results. And I guess the other thing that I wasn't expecting from it was at a show, and I might have told you this, but one time a grower came up to me at a trade show and said, "Oh, I love your fertilizer, that mother plant fertilizer." "Oh, thank you very much." He said, "Yeah, I use it in veg." I go, "Really?" He goes, "Here, I'll tell you a secret." I guess I'm telling everybody the secret. He said that um, he was using a grow formula for his production, not for not for mothers. He was using the mother plant for the moms. He said, but he ran out of grow formula. He said, I'll just use some of this. I have mother plant still. I'll use some of that. He said that was at transition time. He said instead of 10 flowering sites, he had 15 flowering sites. It was stimulating more flower production as well of the sites. And he said, now I use that for my veg formula. I said, oh, that's pretty good. Because I was already using it for veg because it was free. I was making it. But then one day, see, here's the other side. One day I ran out of my mother plant for veg. I said, oh, I'll just use some of my grow formula. I was at transition. I'll just use some grow. Oh, they're probably hungry for some nitrogen. I've been holding that back quite a bit. So I used some grow formula. Immediately I was getting 6, 8 inches of stretch over and get, oh no. And so 2 weeks went by in transition. I literally said I have 2 flowering sites in this 1 foot area. So I can't. This is ridiculous. So I cut it back to where I stopped using the biostimulants, and and I said, well, I wasted 2 weeks, but then I got the really good stacking and improved in the end. So that's the two ends of the stories. So the soil growers loved it because of the biostimulants and microbes, and it was good for mother plants too because there was less nitrogen and more stored energy. And some of that extra stored energy was sent to the roots and stored as starches, the carbohydrates. Plants build up the starches in the roots. They use it to take out phosphorus. Phosphorus stimulates earlier flowering and more flowering sites. So
Yeah.
it did have to add more phosphorus. I said, well, this was a growth formula. Why am I getting more flowers? I mean, I could, I was like, this is crazy. This is a veg. I didn't increase the phosphorus. I didn't increase the potassium, but I'm getting 20% more flowers early in the early stage. It was because of the bricks and the extra sugars stored in the roots instead of just being burned for stretching and top growth. So
Yeah,
that,
we talk about all these plant stimulants and biostimulants and the addition of this and the addition of that, and it kind of gets complicated. But you kind of simplified it right there. You kind of simplified it, just in a nice, balanced uh, feed system or regimen with some of the biostimulants. Plants figure some of this stuff out. And we can't overthink this. And the plant responded, hormones and triggers and things like that. You just set yourself up for success doing it like that. That's a great success story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nature does it the same way. You start getting, the microorganisms in the root zone as they're actively, they're doing cellular metabolism. They're making, they start to vibrate with energy, and they start to divide, pop, 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 and then they make biostimulants that the microorganisms do as when they're actively dividing. So they're
Yeah.
making amino acids. They're making rooting hormones. The microorganisms are producing those things. So if you can speed up the metabolism of the microorganisms, that's going to have a direct response on the plant.
Yeah.
Now, when I did it in hydroponics, it still had a direct response on the root cells themselves and on the plant. But again, when you have a full system, the whole system is energized.
Yeah, someone asked me the other day why I even mess around with hydroponic, because I'm a soil guy. I mean, I'm all about the soil. I'm all about that. And hydroponic is great for research and development for me because plants respond so fast, and you can actually see sometimes the plants responding. You can really fine tune formulations and fine tune feeding regimens in the hydro world. So it's very important to be able to see some new products or new formulations or new blends go to work in hydro. So if I get a hydroponic response, I know I can get this dialed in for the soil as well. So I'm always go back to the hydroponic way of growing plants for the educational purpose, for my product educational purpose. And it's kind of the best of both worlds. If you can get something to react rapidly in hydro, it, the plants tell you that you can watch it, you can see it, you can, if they like it, they'll respond for you. And then me personally, I can say, okay, I'm onto something here. Now, let's take this to the next level. Let's, take this application rate in hydro and kind of see what we need to do in the soil, because the soil response will be a lot slower. So those points you brought up, I use all the time. I use all the time just with the biostimulants and things in hydro.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It gets no better. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's the best of both worlds. You get the perfect mineral balance, that the plants can use immediately, and then improve the uptake of the nutrients with the biostimulants. That does make a difference, a real difference. If you just do that one thing with the foliar we talked about
Yeah,
once every week, or even once every 2 or 3 weeks, doesn't even have to be once a week. Once a week at the most, you'll have a noticeable improvement. You can see it, that the plant responded and the plant is stronger and healthier. And if you have
that's a good
healthy
point.
clones, then you really want to get off to a good start. And it can make a difference. And I mean, you think about it, well, it's just the beginning. It's just those first couple of weeks of getting good roots. Well, that can make a difference in the amount of yields you get at the end. I've seen it in commercial production. When they had the best clones, I follow that down the line. I get some of the best yields. So it starts from the very beginning. And that starts before the beginning with a healthy mom. Okay, well,
Well,
I think
great topic. No, good conversation. Good conversation.
yeah, there's a lot of variations on the theme here, Brandon, which I've learned over time. When you work with nature, there are positive side effects that you probably never even anticipated, never even thought of. You work against nature, sooner or later, there'll be negative side effects, either for the plant, for the environment, or even for people. So so anyway, I really love working with nature, and I've loved working with you over the years and your products.
Yeah, that's been fun. Yeah, work with nature, not against it. And boy, we appreciate you sharing all the knowledge and education. And for being the hydro weight champion of the world, I gotta tell you this statement that you've proven every day. With great flour comes great responsibility. And so I
Ah,
appreciate you
good one.
being so responsible and sharing that with us.
All right. Okay, that was fun today. I got on one of my favorite soapbox topics, you
Good,
know,
good.
but we can see where we're going next week. I hope we can continue the conversation.
Yeah, continue it. And like always, um, it's just like we're sitting around. Just this is what we do when we get together and see each other anyway. It's just stuff just like this. So I'm glad we can share this with the viewers, and hopefully they can get some good pointers and keep moving towards success. So I appreciate your time
Okay.
once again.
Okay, well, see you next week, Brandon.
All
Nice
right, thanks,
talking.
Harley. See you.